All right, guys, this is part 2 of the Eberlestock EMOD tutorial series, and this is going to be the first video that's really getting into products, so we're going to start with the mainframe. The mainframe is really the base of the EMOD system, as it's what all the packs and accessories will go onto. So let's talk about what the mainframe is. The mainframe has an aluminum frame inside of the pack itself that you see here. We're going to start by talking about some of the features, some of the materials and things like that, and then we'll get into the functionality. So what you get when you order a mainframe, this is how it comes out of the box. Is you have your 3 compression straps that come with it, and then obviously your shoulder harness and your hip belt assembly. The shoulder harness and hip belt use what we call a 3D mesh that will keep you very comfortable while you're carrying under load, but it also grips really well so it's not sliding down on your torso. We do have our 90-degree shelf, which makes it really convenient for loading meat or anything else that you might be training with or something like that. We do sell a lot of mainframes to folks that are looking to either train for the hunting season or people that want to hunt with a small day pack and then go get their frame to go back in and haul out meat. If you watch the rest of this series, you'll see some of the packs and accessories that can go on the mainframe, which we definitely recommend. But the mainframe as itself is a very comfortable, versatile, and useful pack in itself. So jumping right into this, if you order a mainframe, there's a couple things that I recommend you do right out of the box as soon as you get it. One of the things that we definitely recommend is underneath here, this is the assembly that you can use to either tighten or just remove the frame altogether, which I'm going to go ahead and walk through here. Now, there's no reason to remove the actual aluminum frame unless it's damaged and you need to replace it, in which case call our customer service and we'll get you taken care of. But if at some point you want to wash the mainframe or something like that, and you do want to remove it, I'm going to show you quickly how to do it. But assuming that you're just getting it set up for your first use, I recommend undoing the strap keepers and making sure that these are tight. So you're going to want to pull on these 3 straps that are underneath here, this whole strap assembly. That's going to ensure that the frame seats all the way to the top of the actual pack. If you let that start to drop, what will happen is these load lifters will be pulling at the top here on this fabric. And if the frame has dropped down a little bit, that fabric is going to pull, that frame is going to drop, and it's going to really throw off the weight distribution. So anytime you use the mainframe, if you feel like it's not as comfortable as it should be, this is always a good place to check, is make sure that these 3 straps under here are pulled as tight as possible and that frame is seated all the way to the top. And it's always good to just ensure that that's the case right out of the box. Now, if you want to undo the frame, I'm not going to do this all the way, but you're going to undo these 3 ladder locks underneath the shelf that you see here. This will loosen this assembly up to a point where you can slip the fabric material over the frame. I'm going to undo these, get myself some slack. And again, I'm not going to go ahead and pull it all the way out because it's not the easiest process, but it is good to know if you want to clean it, if you want to repair it, replace it, something like that. Once I've got some slack in these guys, then I can go ahead and pull this whole assembly over that frame, and then the frame will just pull out from there. Again, for right now, I'm going to go ahead and leave it. If you undo those 3, slip that off, you can take the actual frame out. Don't recommend doing that. You shouldn't need to do it. Let's also talk about how the packs and the accessories go onto the mainframe. There's 2 options. Some of them are going to buckle and zip. So we use a really heavy duty, durable zipper. Most of the packs do use the zip option. In fact, almost all of the packs. And some of them also buckle too. But stay tuned for the next video. We'll get into more specifics on how those integrate with the mainframe itself. A couple other things on the mainframe that you'll find is a zipper hook to keep the zippers from dropping down. On the back here, you'll find laser cut MOLLE. This will allow you to attach certain accessories. So we'll get into that as well in a later video. But that's what the laser cut MOLLE panel is for, so you can attach different accessories. On the front, you'll find D-rings, which are convenient for clipping stuff on. And again, we'll also get into some more accessory stuff where you can use that. A simple sternum strap, your lateral adjustment on your shoulder harness. One other thing I forgot to mention, when you pull it out of the box, another thing I highly recommend is setting the height of your torso or moving the adjustment on the shoulder harness right off the bat. So what you'll see here is a simple Velcro system. You pull on that Velcro loop. You need to pull those 2 nylon panels or nylon tabs out of what we call our ladder assembly there. And that's what's going to allow you to move it up or down to go ahead and set that torso height where you want it. So a lot of people will drop it down. If you're on the shorter side, if you're on the taller side, you might move it to the top. On short and tall, as I'm talking about that, I want to make sure I cover that there are two heights to the mainframe. So we have our regular, which you see here, and you see our tall here. The only difference here is about 3 inches. And where you'll see it is where the zippers end. So on the tall, you can see the zipper ends right there. You have a few extra inches there. On the regular, the zipper ends there, and you have significantly less space. So this tall is really recommended for people roughly 6 foot and above. It kind of depends on your torso length versus your leg length, and also preference at times. Personally, I prefer to use the tall, even though I'm right at about that cutoff for whether you need the tall or the regular. But certainly if you're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", something like that, you're gonna wanna go with the tall. And if you're 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", you're probably gonna wanna go with the regular. But 6 foot is about the cutoff. And then I would tell you, if you're not sure, I always lean towards going with the tall. Back to some things on unboxing the mainframe. Another thing you wanna check is your load lifters. And this is something that not just out of the box, but anytime you use it, you wanna make sure that your load lifters are set correctly. A lot of people have a bad habit of just pulling down on those as tight as possible. And all that's really doing is putting a lot of pressure on the front of your shoulders. What you really want is you want that frame to be more or less in line with your spine. So however tight you need to pull those to keep it in line with your spine, that's about where you want it. And then as you change the weight of your load, you can adjust that to where it's comfortable. But what you don't want is for these to be extremely loose, where you're gonna have a big gap between the shoulder harness and the actual frame itself. And it should be noticeable when you're walking. If you can feel that frame kind of bouncing off your shoulder because it's not tight enough to it, you've probably got your load lifters really loose, in which case you wanna pull them tight. You want that harness to sit something like that. So you can see I have some slack in there. I would want that to be about like that, where I've got a nice tight load lifter. The harness is seated against the frame. It's not a perfect science, but you should be able to feel the difference in comfort as you walk through that process. So as I already mentioned, the mainframe does come with 3 compression straps as part of the system. They use HD buckles to hook up. These extension straps are these compression straps are just over 30 inches in total length. They're long enough for all of the products that we sell with the mainframe, and they're long enough for most uses of the mainframe. But one of the common uses in the mainframe is like hauling in a bait barrel for bear hunting season, or training with something that's a little bit larger, and people get creative with the mainframe. And sometimes you end up needing a little bit more length in these straps. You can find extension straps that are sold on our website. On top of that, a couple other things I want to talk about before we end this video is the hip belt and the shoulder harness. If you want to remove either of them, I'm going to talk in a later video about the padded shoulder harness and the padded hip belt. There is a padded version of both of those, and I'll talk more about those specifically. But if you're wanting to remove the shoulder harness, there's gonna be 5 points that you need to unattach. So as we saw when I did the adjustment, you've got your Velcro tabs. You'll undo that and just simply pull that out. Then you're gonna wanna undo your Velcro strap keeper and run this strap all the way through this ladder lock. Same thing with the other sides. You've got 1, 2, and 3, and then you've got 4 and 5. So these straps you wanna let all the way out, and those will just slip through that ladder lock. You got your 5 points of attachment, that will come off. You can wash it, you can replace it, you can repair it, you can do whatever you need to do there. On the hip belt, all of our hip belts on almost all of our packs, but definitely on all of our mainframes, are removable. Try and turn this where you guys can see it. It uses a simple Velcro panel to lock into place in here. You can probably hear that Velcro tearing. The easiest way to do it is simply slide your hands all the way in. Get that Velcro completely detached, or at least close to it. Be careful to not rip your fingernails off when you're pulling this out. Unfortunately, we've done that a few times. You can see the Velcro panel there. I'm gonna stop it there. But same thing, if you need to take the hip belt off, if it's more comfortable to take off for some reason, or if you want to swap it out for our padded hip belt, which you can find on the website, and I will talk about more later. That's as simple as it is. Get it back in there, get that Velcro reset, and it'll be nice and strong and stay in place. So again, guys, this is video 2 of the 6-part series of what is EMOD, talking about the mainframe. Hopefully I've covered everything. If you want to know more about specs and features like the size and the weight and stuff like that, I recommend visiting the website. All those things are listed out. There's additional resources to learn more about it. Stay tuned for part 3 and also part 4, 5, and 6. But part 3, we're going to talk about the packs that integrate with the mainframe, and that's where it starts to get real exciting with a lot of different combinations and a lot of really cool setups.